Oh, hi. This is Quintus Jett from Abundance for America. And today, the general point I want to come to is can begin with a saying, I think, from boxing. I think it was a quote of Mike Tyson that basically everyone has a plan until they're first hit in the mouth. That was Iowa. But what's different about New Hampshire, that the primaries that are about to come up very shortly, is that everyone has something to lose in New Hampshire. Different. It's good to understand that there's going to be a zone of performance. I mean, given how intense competition is, pretty much, I think there's going to be a lot of looking at people getting, like, the candidates and how they do between 10% and 30%. Given the competition, that's the zone where at least I'm going to be looking to see where the performance is. I'd be very surprised, or I'll be impressed, really, given the competition, any candidate gets above 30%. Pretty much the zone is between 10 and 30%. And what that means is that one, no candidate wants to be in the single digits after this is over. And when the results come in, no one wants to be in the single digits. If you're in the single digits, you don't make the graphic. It's not personal. No one's trying to cancel you, black you out. If you are in the single digits, you are not going to make the graphic, or you're not going to be talked about. And they may not. There's a chance they might not even come to you afterwards to your speech if you don't get above the single digits. So in that sense, New Hampshire, even more so than Iowa, is almost like a game of musical chairs. That when the music stops in New Hampshire on Tuesday night, you do not want to be the one that's caught in the single digits. So that's what that's about. But what that means, though, is that what really is going to determine success in New Hampshire has to do with rankings. So where do you rank within this 10 to 30% zone? And what's intriguing about this particular New Hampshire primary is every single candidate pretty much has something to lose when it comes to rankings coming up on Tuesday. So, for example, Bernie Sanders. He won decisively in 2016. He had 60% of the vote. I looked it up. He's like 60% of the vote, and he won all kinds of he won up and down the state, every corner of the state, big cities, small towns. It was a really strong win for him, and Bernie is in the state next door from Vermont, and as someone who was had lived in New Hampshire, I could see he did that not just because he was just a neighbor next door and they knew him, but he was very organized in 2016. But in some ways, his dominant success in 2016 can kind of work against him now, because most of the press, I mean, who've seen the numbers, they know that. And so now everyone is sort of thinking, well, gosh, Bernie, percent last time. So if you don't really do very strong, if Bernie does not get number one in New Hampshire, the press is going to view that as a loss for him. Like, hey, what happened? What happened, Bernie? You should have gotten, you're organized, and you're next door, from Vermont, and you did it last time. You should know how to do it. So how did that happen? How did you not get number one? So Bernie has something to lose in New Hampshire. I would say Biden. So Biden is still considered one of the front runners. He was number 4 in Iowa. And so similarly, if Biden doesn't get to be, if he's still in that same place, number 4, he's not in the top 3, Biden has something to lose. He does have some demographics there that could benefit him. I think that could be in his favor. I don't think, I'd be surprised if he was like top 1 or 2. But the point is that he has something to lose here. If he is still like at number 4, or if he drifts, I mean, he's going to lose when it comes down to money. And that Bloomberg's in there, and so basically it's going to be like, okay, Mr. Frontrunner, Senator. Well, what now? I mean, so we're not so sure about you. So there's a lot of fundraising he's not going to get if he does not, if he doesn't do better at number 4. Let's see. Let's go to Elizabeth Warren. She was sort of a kind of a distant third in Iowa. She's from the state next door, and not only is she from the state next door in Massachusetts to the south, but literally Massachusetts is near the most populated parts of New Hampshire. I mean, the media market is almost like similar, like to Boston. So what that means is, if there's any reason, if there's any kind of delay in, if she does not perform strongly in New Hampshire, that's going to be like, okay, Senator Warren, that's like twice in a row. Like, where, you should have been strong here. So what's going to happen to you next? So, I mean, so she has something to lose. Pete Buttigieg, good showing in Iowa. But then, I mean, some people would think, well, he's from Indiana, Midwest. So that's now better there. So if he does not replicate a similar kind of performance, like, if he's like number 2, like if he's like 3, 4, he has something to lose. All of a sudden, they're like, okay, well, that was just a one-off that happened to you, like Mayor Pete. And then Amy Klobuchar, she did better. She caused some excitement. The thing about Amy Klobuchar is, I think the press and pretty much everyone there's this label that she's uncharismatic. But in some ways, the good news of that for her is that if she does anything that's remotely exciting, it's like it becomes super duper exciting, because she's been given that, she has that reputation of not being exciting. Even myself, it's like when she actually does something very strong, I'm like, whoa, Amy K, look at that, but she has something to lose here, because if she's going to be hovering like number 5 and this is out of the Midwest, everyone's going to be saying, well, where does this go from here? Where does this go from here for her? And then then comes to this video's hometown favorite, Andrew Yang. So what does this mean for Andrew Yang? He has a lot to lose here too, because if he's in single digits again, or like he was in Iowa, it's basically the status quo that we've seen, where they find excuses to not include him in graphics. They have a reason now they can point to not include him in graphics, etc. And so that could actually work against him. So we could, we could lose. That's another form of loss. Another way of losing has to do with there are other candidates out there, Steyer and Gabbard, and so so if we did below them, I mean, we lost. I mean, that's something that would really hurt. What is interesting about Andrew Yang, I think, in relative to this race, is how we compare to the others. So there is sort of a zero-sum game, I think, at work here. So if Andrew Yang outcompetes in ranking most of the other candidates, like if he outranks Sanders or Biden or Warren or Buttigieg or Klobuchar, if he outranks them in the voting, that becomes big news. It's like he benefits to the extent, and they're going to lose. It's like, wow, man, Andrew Yang beat you guys out, huh? That's not good. So there's a lot of, it's all about the ranking going on. But I will say, though, that even if things don't turn out as we would expect or hope, like if it's like status quo where, Andrew is like, 3, 4, 5, if he's like 6th again, the good news about that, or at least the proactive stance that I think we should take, is that there is quite an extensive ecosystem within the Yang Nation. If only I could convey to you what it's like as I see it. So even for New Hampshire, yes, the campaign HQ Yang has its plan with they're doing some canvassing, they're doing some like phone calls they're having people do, but there are independent Yang Gang out there doing things as well, and there are all sorts of like different Yang groups around the country, Yang Gang, and actually individuals, and it's remarkably the most creative, some of the most entrepreneurial things I've ever seen in campaigning is happening mostly in the and so in fact, and it's so dynamic that, again, even if the Yang campaign has had layoffs, even if if the Yang campaign were to not pick up its campaigning, there's still enough energy and dynamism and creativity in Gang and Yang Nation to actually keep some momentum going, like no matter what. To the point where I don't even think Andrew Yang himself knows that. So, so Andrew Yang, Mr. Yang, if you're listening, or if this has been forwarded to you, there's actually a lot going on with the Yang Nation, and we are on our own. A lot of us have gotten us closer to creating this, building ourselves to last in a way that has been inspired by you. So with that, I'm looking forward to New Hampshire, and so from here on, I think the future videos are going to be. I'm going to go start focusing on additional states that are coming next. But with that, like this video, share it to the people who you think need to see it, and let's go.